The Philip F. Anschutz Trophy. That's what everybody wants to lift. 14 teams started the journey in these Audi 2021 MLS Cup Playoffs. Only 12 team remains. We're here to put a bow On this night, Andrew Wiebe, Calen Carr, Matt Doyle, and Charlie Davies, and Daniel Shallowy with Susanna Collins. Yes, we have him on the field after a 3-1 victory for Sporting Kansas City over the Vancouver Whitecaps.
All right, Daniel Shallowy, Sporting Kansas City, live to fight for another day. Survive and advance is exactly what you guys did here at home tonight. I know the regular season didn't end the way you guys wanted it to, but what did it take for you guys to get this result here tonight?
Look, we have a healthy team now. Everybody's flying. That's what we had to do at home, and we did that. Now on to the next one. We are extremely happy. I'm very proud of the team. I think we played well. And, you know, we don't know if we're going to travel or play at home, but this team, I feel like this team's ready.
Let's talk about Graham Zusi, because you guys connected on both the first goal, the second goal. What is that connection like? How is it incredible that he is still able to do what he does?
He's amazing. He's amazing. You know, he's so technical. It doesn't matter his age or how many years he has been playing. He's amazing. His crosses, his vision. And look at that goal. It was awesome, amazing. So I'm very happy for him and, you know, for the whole team.
Okay, so it's going to be RSL or Seattle for you guys. I know we don't know which one yet, but when you think about those two matches for you guys, what are you going to be focusing on leading up to the next one?
Well, it depends on if you play away or at home. The tactics changes, but look, we can be nervous. We are very good at home. We have our atmosphere. You saw it. Our fans push us. We are doing amazing at home. And we beat Seattle twice away, so that gives us so much confidence. So we are ready and prepared for everything.
Daniel, thanks for the time. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ready and prepared for everything. I think some of the neutrals out there, sorry, Real Salt Lake fans, might want that Seattle matchup in the conference semifinals. We shall see. But on this Saturday, we saw the Philadelphia Union score the latest goal in the history of Major League Soccer. JAKOB GLESNES, he only scores bangers, got it done in extra time to keep us from PKs. The Red Bulls season is over for the 12th straight year in the playoffs. And, of course, Sporting Kansas City move on. Calen, what did you see in the nightcap? What got you excited as these playoffs begin?
Yeah, well, Daniel Shallowy was saying they'd be comfortable playing away and the tactics might change. The tactics changed tonight at home, and they seemed very content to concede a lot of the ball, just 37% possession. That stands out to me for a Sporting Kansas City team that we have seen over the years continue to dominate the ball, especially at home. But they took a little bit of a different approach. They sat back at times, and then they were able to win the ball and get forward on the counter. I would say a mature, restrained performance, some interesting tactical wrinkles from Peter Vermees, and then, you know, you got to give it up. Vintage stuff there from Graham Zusi. He looked like he turned the clock back tonight.
I've
Fantastic
seen that goal before.
Oh.
I've seen it before. He scored it against the Portland Timbers. 10 years ago, he did this. It was a carbon copy. Kansas City gets it done. Props to Peter Vermees for changing things up. Look, props to the Union, Charlie, for getting it done. It was ugly at times, frankly, and Jim Curtin said so. But sometimes it just takes one moment, one time for one player to be a difference maker.
And I think they all knew coming into this match that it wasn't going to be pretty to start. However, that start ended up being all the way into extra time, where I think it took for the Union to bring on Sergio Santos to open up the game, to make them a little bit more dynamic in the attacking third, which ended up happening. However, they weren't finishing their chances. So once they create those chances, and I'm talking right on the money in the 6, misses. So I think they progress, and that's a huge benefit to the team, how they stuck with it. They didn't break. So you got to give them credit.
Got to give him credit. You got to give Zeus credit. A thunderbolt on this night makes it 3-1. It's an AT&T 5G call to the field. Back to Kansas City we go for Susanna Collins and Graham Zusi.
Graham Zusi, all he does is score bangers. My goodness, sir. And it just happens to be your first playoff goal. What was that moment like when it hit the back of the net?
A little bit of shock, a little bit of surprise, but no, it was a nice play all around. To be honest, we countered down the left side. Daniel cut in, drew a lot of people as he should at this point in the year. He's been so dangerous for us. So for me, I think he drew quite a bit of people and slide off to me. It was always going to be a touch and hit for me in that spot. So able to catch it clean and watch it go in the back of the net.
It was a pretty thing to watch, let me tell you. But that was a battle out there. And after they equalized, you guys were able to kind of come back and regain some momentum again. How were you able to sort of make some of those adjustments so you didn't allow Vancouver back into this one?
Yeah, even though they got the equalizer, it was a bit against the run of play for us. I think mentally we needed to know that, continue to play what we were playing. We were creating a lot of chances. We got the late first half goal to go into halftime up a goal, which was huge. I think that maybe took a little wind out of their sails. And then the second half to get the first goal was huge for us.
Somebody told me, too, that your sister got married yesterday and you had to miss the wedding because of this game. Is she going to forgive you after this performance that you put on here tonight?
I certainly hope so. We'll credit or we'll attribute that one to her, and that was a nice little wedding present, I think.
Absolutely. Congrats, Graham. Enjoy.
Oh, asking for forgiveness on a night in which you score your first MLS Cup playoff goal and push you onto the conference semifinals. Sometimes family trumps everything else, folks, but what a great first night here in the Audi 2021 MLS Cup Playoffs. This is the post-game show. We will be with you every single night until the final whistle blows, all the way until MLS Cup on December 11th. And, well, we have a little bit of a hint right now in the West. Game 1, you have chalk. We'll find out on Tuesday whether that applies to Seattle and RSL. And tomorrow, a big one between Portland, Minnesota. What do you see out West right now?
Well, I mean, I do see chalk today. Like Sporting Kansas City, as Calen went over, they outplayed Vancouver in a way that we don't often see Sporting KC play. That was surprising to me, and you got to tip the cap to Peter Vermees for going away from his team's usual game plan, which is to press, which is to dominate the ball. They drew the line of confrontation at midfield, and it allowed them to create space in behind the Vancouver back line and then hit these big switches that completely undressed the Whitecaps. And that's how the game was won. It led to this first goal that you're seeing right now on the screen, and it led to Graham Zusi's goal as well, the third goal, which really just ended the game. It was an impressive performance from Sporting Kansas City. I think Calen used the word mature, which is befitting a team that is very, very old. They have been there, done that before, and they looked like it. And they gave the Whitecaps a lesson, and that is what you want to see if you're a Sporting Kansas City fan to start this playoff run. You want to see them go out there and look not just good, but smart and ruthless. And that's what we got from Sporting Kansas City today.
And Charlie, they didn't have to play Alan Pulido. He's been training. He was ready. He could have been off the bench had they needed him. It says everything that they did not need him and got to save those legs.
They didn't need him. This was a game where Kyrie Shelton, you could use his pace, open up his legs, get him behind. And the way that I give so much credit to PV. Peter Vermees had this tactical game plan and said, you know what? I have to play to our team's strengths. Without Alan Pulido on the field, we can't high press. We can't keep possession because Kyrie Shelton's one of those players who you draw a team in and you lump it in behind and he runs into the channels. He opens up the game for you. They played it to perfection. And because of that, it opened up Vancouver. Vancouver gets back in the game and then you give up a set piece goal.
Yeah.
To start the half. That's what killed it for them. So ultimately, KC did what they needed. They rested Pulido, which I think gives them another week to recover, and then you're going to need him in that next match.
What are the odds we see this approach going forward in the playoffs from Kansas City?
It works, right? And so the way you attack a back three or a back five, if you want to turn the back three into a back five, is you leave one of your wingers high and wide, which is exactly what they did all night with Daniel Shallow. He had chalk on his boots. And by doing that, it never allowed Marcus Gaudinho, who was the right wing back for Vancouver, to push forward and get numbers forward into the attack for Vancouver, which is how they want to play. And at the same time, it drew the strong side center back out to the touchline, where it's like, if it's Daniel Shallow versus, Eric Godoy or Florian Youngworth, I like Daniel Shallow's chances in that. So I do think, given that both RSL and Seattle play with a back three that you want to turn into a back five, you want to pin their wing backs back, I think that we could end up seeing a lot more of this from Sporting, whether they're at home against RSL or on the road in Seattle.
Yeah,
Right now,
especially
TBD.
on the road. Especially on the road, it would work. I mean, half the possession and double the shots. So they've controlled the game without having the ball. We've seen Seattle go and do this at times in the past. Looking back a couple years ago, going on the road to LAFC, conceding possession and then finding the goals. And this was a similar performance, but at home. And I think it caught Vancouver off guard. And they got that one chance with the Brian White header in the second half that Melia makes a big save on. But other than that, other than just the own mistake on the handball, Sporting Kansas City was in control from start to finish.
Let's take another look at this Graham Zusi goal, because we shouted out. This is deja vu. Excuse me, we won't take a look. But Graham Zusi's goal changed everything for them. And look, that was sort of the nail in the coffin. It's been a resurgent year for Graham Zusi. Like, this has been sort of a comeback for him in a lot of ways. And we put him in our extra time best 11s, Doyle. What did you see from him this year that's been a little bit different maybe from years past? And how do they play through him? Because really that's the big thing here.
So it's not even that it's different. It's just like he aged backwards over the past 18 months or something. Like he looks like 28-year-old Graham Zusi instead of 34, 35-year-old Graham Zusi. He's, covering ground again. He's getting on the ball. I will say tactically, I think a little bit of the difference is that he's not overlapping so high. And instead of asking him to cover touch or end line to end line, Peter Vermees has having him hit more of those diagonals. And that was the perfect game plan today, because as soon as he had an inch, he was just going to bang it to that far side to Shalloy and okay, kid, go to work. And Graham Zusi, one of the great right backs that we've ever had in this league, unquestionably the best right back that we've ever had at hitting those long diagonals. He hits inch perfect switches of play. And when you have a guy who can do that and a winger in the form that Shalloy has been in for this entire year, might as well use it. And that was the story of this game today.
He must work out.
Look, goals are worth money in these playoffs, and they're worth $2,000 a piece. Back for another year of playoff soccer is the Audi Goals Drive Progress program. For every single goal scored in the Audi MLS Cup Playoffs, $2,000 will be contributed to the Audi Goals Drive Progress Fund. That's directly supporting MLS Youth Academies. Thanks to the 5 goals scored tonight, you have GLESNES, the 3 for Kansas City, the PK for Dahomey. That's $10,000 donated just tonight. We're off to an amazing start in these playoffs, and throughout the playoffs. You can also catch the Driving Force series on Instagram. To stay up to date on all the big storylines, head over to BR Football's IG stories, Driving Force, to vote for your favorite club, to learn about goals, drive, progress, and to hear some Audi MLS Cup Playoffs bracket challenge predictions. My bracket challenge, boys, 2 for 2. I'm good. Weebstradamus is back, taking chalk in the first night and coming up successful. Anybody got a miss so far? Anybody want to raise their hands? Had a lot of Vancouver predictions in the pregame show. Yep, there's Charlie, hand raised. Oh, Calen, 2 hands up. Tough for you, and congratulations to all of you that got those right tonight. Stay tuned with those as we move forward. All right, let's say goodbye to Vancouver. It's been an amazing season, Doyle. It's been a wonderful run for them. They changed coaches in the middle of the year. They were already sort of putting it together, but Vanni Sartini really helped them crystallize how they could get to this point. And they beat basically the best in the Western Conference just to get into the playoffs and didn't quite have enough in this moment. They've said that Vanni Sartini and the decision on the head coach will be made at the end of the season. He had said, look, I hope that's December 11th. He'd also said they were going to beat Kansas City. Now it's time for a decision. Do you think he deserves this job? What happens for the Vancouver Whitecaps now?
I think they have to hire Vanni Sartini full time. I think just not just him getting the tactics right for the most part, switching to the 3-4-2-1, getting better play out of a lot of the young players and even some of the older players who had been kind of discarded by the previous regime, but getting the vibes right. Vancouver became a fun team to watch on the field and off the field. This is the first time in 10 years that they've been in this league that we're saying goodbye to them. And I'm kind of sad about it. Like, I really liked watching Vancouver play from, mid-August onwards when he took over. They do have some work to do, right? Because, they played the toughest schedule in the league and they made it to the playoffs. The toughest schedule in the league down the stretch, I should say. And they made it to the playoffs in spite of that. But also, some of those games, they weren't very good. Some of those games, it was Max Crepeau standing on his head and bailing them out, and a little bit of musical chairs with the defenders, and not quite having the type of possession that they wanted through midfield. So they have that to work on for next year. But I think this core is really it's filled with potential. It's filled with fun players. And to me, they have the right coach in Vanni Sartini, and I really hope we get to see him in 2022.
What can they be, Calen, next year? If you're a Vancouver Whitecaps fan and you're sitting here dreaming, you're like, we didn't quite have it in this game against Sporting Kansas City. Maybe we can flip it next year. Maybe we can be a Sporting Kansas City. Where does this team go? What do you see from them?
Well, it's big for them to get some playoff experience under their belt tonight. Obviously didn't go in their way in the end, but you look down that final stretch, they're playing basically desperation games. I think a lot of times with almost nothing to lose, but the expectations for the club at large have shifted now, where you come in and you go into next year, they have a clear philosophy, they have a style of play. They're one of the more dynamic athletic teams in the league that can really go end to end. Now tonight, I think they were asked a little bit of a different question. I thought they were expecting maybe to go end to end, and it ended up being more of, okay, what do we do now? And I think credit to Kansas City for that. But you think of Vanni Sartini and the circumstances which he came in. There's a lot of other MLS clubs that parted ways with their manager mid-season with the hopes of happening to what happened in Vancouver, where you get this dramatic late season turnaround and get into the playoffs. That mostly didn't happen, except for Vancouver. I'd expect to see him stay in and with a full preseason, maybe make some changes to actually get more of his philosophy and players that fit it into the team. And you have to be excited if you're a Whitecaps fan.
Charlie, let me ask you this, Charlie, because they have a bit of a striker controversy. Brian White's got to be the starting striker next year, but they have a DP in Lucas Cavallini, a DP number 9. If you're the Whitecaps front office, what do you do with that this offseason?
Move him.
Which one?
Cavallini.
Okay.
I mean, you just look at more bang for your buck, right? You're in the front office. If you have an American striker, I know you're a Canadian team, but you have an American striker who's producing, and you're getting so much value for what he's able to do on the pitch for you, versus someone who you're paying boatloads of money to who's not producing. I think it's pretty simple. You still have value for Cavallini. You move him. You do what it takes, because right now, if you're paying someone that type of money, they need to be producing. You look at the teams that are successful, i.e., I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. New England Revolution. You're paying the players the big money to come up with the big performances and do it consistently. That's how you have success in this league. You're paying big money to those attacking players who are typically going to get you goals, create goals, assists, and Cavallini hasn't done it for Vancouver. Therefore, you have to move him.
They have not been afraid to make moves. If you look at their transfer business over the last year and a half or so, 2 years, they've made big moves. They've spent money. Even Ryan Gauld in this window was a huge move for them. We'll see what they do in the offseason. Some hope in Vancouver. Certainly, let's head out to the Eastern Conference. The first game of the day went down in Chester, overlooking the Delaware River. 1-0. Boy, it did not seem like we were going to get to 1-0, folks. I got to tell you, this was, as Doyle said often in our little private chat, a rock fight. But the Union move on. 1-0. JAKOB GLESNES. He got the final blow, and what a blow it was. Doyle, this was not picture perfect, let's say. This was not necessarily an entertainment product at times, but it was played on the Red Bulls' terms, and they very nearly made this their game.
They nearly did, but credit to Jim Curtin for making the change at the hour mark to go to a 4-4-2 diamond. Charlie talked about it right at the start of the show. Bringing Sergio Santos in opened up the game, and from that point on, like, even though it was still a rock fight, I thought the Union had the bigger rock. The difference was none of their forwards could finish any of these chances. I mean, look at this stream right here. These are all just gilt-edged chances. They're well-built, sending numbers at pace from the midfield, and whether it's Kasper Szpilka or Sergio Santos or Corey Burke, nobody could find the back of the net. But, I mean, the Union didn't panic. Credit to them for putting the Red Bulls on the back foot just about the entire time, the entire last hour of the game, I should say, and trusting that they would find a way to get a winner. And that comes from having a little bit of experience in the playoffs. They have 2 playoff wins now. The first one was against the Red Bulls too, and once you have that under your belt, I think it becomes a little bit easier to see out games like this against teams that are maybe a little less talented and are trying to turn it into less of a soccer game and more of a rock fight.
These chances, we were yelling, we were screaming, we were saying, who's going to be the one? Well, JAKOB GLESNES.
Well, Wiebe, once we saw so many missed chances, from the striker core of the Union, because Berg came on as well and was a threat in behind and had some chances that he missed. And we were all on a little bit delayed streams or different times. And by just the reaction I could hear, I knew it was a GLESNES goal. Right? You could just hear the reaction where you're like, oh, no, that's not a tap in. That's nothing in and around the box. That one is from deep. And for a match that really lacked some quality, I think, in possession and in some of the patterns of play, you surely were not lacking anything with this strike. I mean, this guy has done this time and time again against LAFC. I remember just before, the league stopped, and just every time this guy gets an opportunity in and around the box, it's set pieces. This one's on the bounce. For a center back to take a ball like this, my goodness. And at the moment he did, the latest goal in MLS history. What a finish. And you can see Jim, I think he said he ran as fast as he ever has in 10 years.
He needed to do the Mourinho knee slide right there.
I hope
Calen, you've seen it before.
That's what I was most worried about for Jim.
You saw he was wearing the designer apparel. He was thinking, he was like, can I, should I? Not in these slacks. Don't think I could ruin these.
I have the same pair of kicks as Jim.
Oh my God.
And I said, all right, you're bringing the A game, so the team better come with the performance today.
He put some creases in those. Between this and GLESNES and Zusi.
The GLESNES. It's a center back.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know how many
at the moment
you absolutely said. You said I've seen Zusi do this before.
That's true.
He's done it before. Almost carbon copy.
You've seen GLESNES do this. Might not even be GLESNES' best.
No. We've seen GLESNES just run up and hit a smash a rocket. We haven't seen him take it off the chest, off the bounce, and then have that composure to let it drop just a little bit before putting it over Carlos Coronel. This is a class goal.
Oh, just a beautiful moment in these Audi 2021 MLS Cup Playoffs. Good start today when it comes to the goal scoring. I want to look ahead as we watch this goal, Doyle, because this is the moment that gets the Union through. It's a wonderful moment. The folks at Subaru Park will remember this for a very long time, but they still have home field advantage. They will play another game at home. We don't yet know who the opponent will be. It'll be either Nashville or Orlando. We'll find that out on Tuesday. But they have some questions to answer here, namely sort of in their ability to finish, to be that protagonist, and to put the ball in the back of the net in moments in which they have the better of the play.
I mean, to me, they've answered it no. That's been the story of the Union for the most part in big games over the past few years. You can think about, 2 years ago in the playoffs, they had the better of Atlanta for a while, and they got multiple breakaways, and they were not able to finish against Atlanta. Atlanta advanced. Last year in the playoffs, the Revs blitzed them. The Union had a couple of chances to get back into that game. They could not finish them. The Revs advanced. This year, they made it to the CONCACAF Champions League semifinals. They outplayed Club America in the second game at home. They had multiple chances to finish. They did not finish. Club America advanced. They got lucky in this one that the Red Bulls didn't finish. They got lucky that, Patrick Klimala had two breakaways. One, he scuffed wide. The other, Andre Blake, made a great save. They got lucky that the Red Bulls have the same problem that the Union have. But, I love watching this team play. I think that, their club ethos is great. I think Jim Curtin is one of the great coaches in the league. I don't think their forwards are the type of forwards who can propel you to a deep playoff run. If they are, they've been keeping it well hidden over the past few years. And, maybe play him the clip of this ahead of the next game and see if that gets him pissed off enough to start putting the ball in the goal. But, if they're those guys, they haven't shown it yet.
Would Curtin need to make changes, in your opinion, Calen? Should he go with Sergio Santos? We saw the way that sub changed the game. And I know, look, from the start versus, once you have a little bit of the game down in front of you, you can kind of feel things out. And there's a difference there. But should Jim Curtin consider starting two forwards?
I would not change things. Now, he had to make a couple changes this game due to health and safety protocols that I'm sure he was not hoping to make with Mbaizo, who's been important down the right flank, and then Montero as well. So TBD as far as their status, that sort of shifted the lineup a little bit. Paxton Aronson came in, who I thought was actually the Union's best player until he came off. But it was a smart shift to go to 2 and to go to those 2 in particular. But I think it was more because it suited this game. The game, as Doyle said rightly, was a rock fight. And if you look at Burke and Santos, what they can do is blow that up. They can change the game where when it comes to those physical confrontations or when it comes to physicality where you can get in behind or a second ball or an ugly play, that's what they brought to the match. And give them credit for bringing that energy. It just lacked that finishing quality. And they got in the right spots. I still think they will probably both be more in that position. The only one I might consider was Santos because his speed can cause problems. So depending on the matchup, you might consider him. But I think you would mostly still stick with the same lineup and hope that you can get Montero and Mbaizo back into the team.
Give it to me quick, Charlie. Will the Union be favorites at home against either Nashville or Orlando? Or is it even to you?
Yes, they'll be favorites, but it's going to be a very difficult match, whether they get Nashville or Orlando City. Nashville, we know, there is the best organized. I think that as far as organizational teams in Major League Soccer, what they've been able to do, Gary Smith, is incredible because now they're being able to transition from those defending low blocks and being organized to getting into the attack. And Hani Mukhtar, he is a problem. He really is the key to this Nashville attack. And so if they can figure out a way to neutralize him, then they're going to be standing in a good position. However, Orlando City, they open up the game more. That would be a perfect matchup for Sergio Santos. I think that plays into his hands, whereas Nashville, maybe a Shabilko or even a Corey Burke, for that matter, might be a better matchup with the one striker.
Tuesday, Nashville, Orlando. We shall find out who the Union hosts at Subaru Park. We do know, however, Doyle, that 12 years in the playoffs has resulted in no MLS Cups for the Red Bulls, but a very tidy streak. Say goodbye to this New York team that fought back, that looked like they weren't going to continue the streak and push their way into the 7th spot in the East. They say there's hope. They're disappointed, but there's hope.
Yeah, I mean, there is. They made the play, as you said. This is the 12th straight year in the playoffs, and for a good chunk of this year, it didn't look like it was going to work. I mean, mid-August, even into mid-September, they were pretty much dead in the water, and they had 12 games left in the season, 7-1-4. They were just a dominant defensive team, and that came from their style of play. When their backs were in the wall, the Red Bulls started Red Bulling as hard as they could, and they forced everyone else to Red Bull as well. And that's where you get into rock fights, and they were really good at winning most of those. I'm not sure if that is a recipe to win an MLS Cup. We have a lot of data now that says maybe it's not. Maybe you have to play a little bit more. Of course, the last coach who tried to do that was Chris Armas, and we know that didn't work out for him in New York. What Gerhard, anywhere fair. What Gerhard Struber has done the second half of the season is much more reminiscent of like the full throttle energy drink soccer that Jesse Marsh had his team playing. The difference was Jesse Marsh had prime Bradley Wright Phillips, MVP caliber Bradley Wright Phillips. If Patrick Klimala is that guy, I haven't seen him yet. I don't think Fabio's that guy. There are some nice pieces elsewhere, but just on talent, 7th felt like maybe a little bit of an overachievement from this Red Bulls team. And then they have questions. Like, I think Sean Davis is a free agent this offseason. He was huge all year. They have a bunch of guys on loan, including Carlos Coronel, who was just massive in the second half of the season. They have a lot to figure out within, like, who's going to be back, who they're going to build around. I mean, Kyle Duncan being gone, how are they even going to get the ball into the final third without him? But they have an identity again, and the identity is just pure, undiluted Red Bull soccer.
I would also add that Gerhard Struber now understands Major League Soccer, and what the matches look like on the road versus playing at home, and he's got a good block. I think a good foundation. You know what kind of players you need to bring in. Red Bulls have an incredible network around the world as far as targeting, certain players who could come in and make a massive difference, actually. So I'm really looking forward to seeing in the offseason which moves they make to really help this team out.
Weren't afraid to spend money on Patrick Klimala. Wasn't able to provide the difference in this match. Red Bulls just couldn't quite get it done. that streak, it rolls on, but they do not move on in these playoffs. They are out in round one. Sunday, another Audi 2021 MLS Cup doubleheader. New York City, Atlanta, 3 p.m. Eastern, ABC, ESPN Deportes. Portland, Minnesota, right after on ESPN Deportes at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We have your pregame show right here on Twitter Spaces, and then we'll be back for the postgame, as we will for every single day of playoff action on MLS channels. So stay tuned for all of that. Another doubleheader tomorrow. What will we see? Well, we shall find out. NYCFC Atlanta, Calen, what's your initial feeling here as to what this matchup's going to be looking like? Some injury issues for NYCFC, but at home, they are nails.
Yeah, they're going to have to monitor some health and availability with NYCFC in the middle of midfield. And look, at the end of this, we know who they're going to face, right? They're going to be playing New England Revolution, Charlie Davies squad, who's been tracking him closely. And I think both of these teams, that's a tough draw actually for New England, because both these teams have a ton of quality. You look across the line on each team, and you even look back a couple of years, this matchup in the playoffs where Atlanta went up to Yankee Stadium and just turned it into a fight, and then hit with Martinez and try to go out there on the break. I'm not sure this Atlanta team is really set up that way. When you look at Barco, Moreno, Araujo, not exactly the same kind of constitution to the team that you would maybe see that went up there and did that in the past. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of an open one. I think there'll be goals in this. And then that's really what it comes down to. For NYCFC, they've got the Golden Boot winner, Tati Castellanos. Can he carry that into the postseason? Had a big goal on decision day, ton of confidence, showing leadership. So I think NYCFC will be the favorites at home.
Hope Mama Castellanos is going to be there. If you haven't seen
awesome.
the video that went viral from NYCFC, it is Tati getting the golden boot from his mother. He had no idea that she was there from Buenos Aires. I would have cried too, Tati.
Very touching.
How about this? Give me the first look, Charlie, at the second game of the day.
Oof.
Portland, Minnesota. It's a good one. Couple really good number 10s. Minnesota say they're ready. They said this is their time of year, but Portland have shown us a lot over recent times that this is their time of year as well.
This is Portland's time. And if in this matchup, I trust Gio Savarese because of his experience, because this team at home, typically around this time of year, come to life. But I have to say this, Minnesota have owned the Portland Timbers the last 3 matches and the last 2 in Portland. In particular, this year, they scored in the first 2 minutes of the match, and they were able to grind out a win with a 1-0 victory. Now, on paper, I love Minnesota. I look at each player and what they bring to the table, and I'm thinking, man, how is this team not competing for the top of the West? Because they've underperformed how good they are. On paper, they are rock stars, but it hasn't translated in matches. They haven't been consistent. And, I look at Robin Lod, who is a player who I think is really talented. He can play, obviously, a multitude of different positions in the attack. 9 goals on the year, 5 assists. That's one player who's going to have to stick out. He's going to be the X factor, because we know Reynoso is a baller. He is an absolute baller, and everything runs through him, and he's so gifted at being able to take the ball, play 1-2s, find those gaps, and then those little chip lob passes to unleash players into the box or into the attacking third. Chara is going to lock him up, or he's going to attempt to lock him up. So the other players that they have, Fragapane, and you look at Lod, and you also look at Hunu. You spent all this money to bring in a DP striker. 7 goals and 1 assist is not enough for what you were brought in to do. Now, I get it. It's his first season. Next year, he can probably take off. But this is a game where you need your big players to step up. So I think this is going to be a super close game, an entertaining game. If I'm going to have to pick one, I look at the goalkeepers, because I think the goalkeepers are going to have big matches today. I tend to go with Steve Clark, just because Steve Clark has stoned me a couple of times. And Gio Savarese, I think at home, he has the heartbeat of this team. He understands it. And I think this one, they pull it out, but it's going to be a tight one.
All right, the beat of the playoffs goes on. 2 games down. 11 more to go, all the way to December 11th, MLS Cup. We don't know where that's going to happen just yet, but we do know what's going down on Sunday and Tuesday. Those are your next 2 nights of the Audi 2021 MLS Cup Playoffs. Tomorrow, Sunday, November 21st, New York City, Atlanta, and Portland, Minnesota. And catch that doubleheader between the Sounders and RSL, as well as Nashville and Orlando on Tuesday. Here is how your bracket looks right now. I hope your bracket challenge is standing up, is perfect. 2 check marks. If not, sorry, too bad. Still a long way to go. If you've got the winner, that'll go a long way. That's it for us here on the Audi MLS Cup Playoff post-game show. We'll be with you every single night of this postseason. For Matt Doyle, Charlie Davies, Calen Carr, I'm Andrew Wiebe. For our amazing production crew behind the scenes led by Andres Arhus, we're out of here. Enjoy your night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.